going to call this meeting to order of the Local Planning Agency, February 20th. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of January 16th.
And can I get a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, next thing that is up is the Chauncey Bay Ranch PUD zoning master, hope I have a pair of glasses, final site plan, C-167-005, and it's quasi-judicial.
Chairman, I have no excommunication, ex parte communications to divulge.
I get you. Mr. Brown?
Chairman, I have met with a representative of this development, this planning.
Okay,
I have no ex parte communication.
Yeah, I've met with them lots of times.
okay, and I have spoken to staff, and I have met with the applicant. Okay? It's all yours, Mr. Eland.
We need
What
we
do
need
we
to
need?
swear in the wet.
Oh, swear in, yes. That's why you're there.
So I'm here. I got a checklist.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay? Mr. Eland.
Thank you, members of the LPA. For the record, Brian Elam, Principal Planner with the Growth Management Department. Copy of my work history is on file with the clerk. This is a request by WGI Incorporated on behalf of CBR Investors, LLC, for approval of a planned unit development zoning agreement for the Chauncey Bay Ranch project, including a master final site plan for a 9-lot, single-family subdivision and associated infrastructure, with a resulting density of 0.49 units per acre. Included with this application is a request for a certificate of public facilities reservation. The approximately 18.2 acre site is generally located on the west side of Southwest Connors Highway, south of 10150 Southwest Connors Highway. This property here. Approximately 6 miles north of Southwest Kenner Highway in Okeechobee. The undeveloped land borders a canal on its west side and Southwest Connors Highway on its east side.
I'm sorry, Mr. Eland, did you say in Okeechobee?
Yes.
No.
No?
It's on Lake Okeechobee.
It's on Lake Okeechobee. You didn't mean we were talking about something
This is
that's
Martin
located
County.
in Okeechobee.
It's at the westernmost edge of unincorporated Martin County.
Okay,
At the Rim Canal, this here is Lake Okeechobee.
okay.
The Rim Canal, and this is
Okay.
about as far west as we're ever going to get. There's a single-family home to the north of the property, and due south is cropland. The property is outside the Urban Services District and will use well and septic. The existing zoning district on the property is RE2A, Rural Estate Density District, with a rural density underlying future land use. Single-family detached dwellings are permitted use in the RE2A zoning district. The following tables show the structure setbacks and development standards of the existing RE2A Rural Estate Density Zoning District. The bottom row in red shows the setbacks and development criteria for the proposed planned unit development zoning agreement. Setbacks proposed meet or exceed standard zoning requirements. The proposal has met the minimum lot area of 2 acres, exceeds the minimum lot width, and is meeting the maximum residential density allowed. The minimum open space is exceeded by 25%. The proposed maximum building height of 40 feet is permitted by the comp plan, but not permitted in RE2A zoning district. I think I messed up and skipped an important slide here. So the rural density future land use pursuant to policy 4.13A.5.1, excuse me, of the Martin County Comprehensive Growth Management Plan, lands with rural density shall be developed at a density of no more than 1 unit per 2 gross acres. All rural development shall have a maximum building height of 40 feet and maintain at least 50% of the gross land area as open space. So that's from the comp plan. The applicant is seeking rezoning approval to a planned unit development to allow the maximum building height of 40 feet permitted in the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan. As a condition of the PUD agreement, the owner shall make a one-time public benefits contribution to the county in the amount of $6,000 for use by Martin County Fire Rescue to purchase one fire preemption device. Here's a view of the first page of the master final site plan showing the 9 2-acre lots. You can see the geometry of the lots are different due to the varying distances from the east and west property lines and the requirement of each lot to be 2 acres. I wish this. Be a little bit better close-up. Second sheet shows the lots enlarged. The distances for driveway aprons is defined by FDOT at 660 feet minimum, which is what is shown on these plans. Actually, it's shown on the construction plans, but this represents the 660 feet between each driveway apron. The stormwater design includes a large continuous dry retention area along the entire property along the canal with extensions toward the roadway, and is designed to retain runoff for a 100-year, 3-day storm event. The stormwater design includes an emergency outfall structure to protect the perimeter berm in the event stormwater runoff becomes too high and excess water will be discharged into the rim canal, which is the legal positive outfall for this project. This is a conceptual elevation drawing of a development that could be done on here, kind of demonstrating that the increased height may provide a view of Lake Okeechobee. This is not a proposal, just a demonstration of what could be. So Development Review staff have found the CBR Investors LLC application to comply with all applicable regulations, and the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan is detailed in the staff report. Staff recommends approval of the CBR Investors LLC application to adopt a resolution approving rezoning from RE2A Rural Estate District to Planned Unit Development, and approve the Chancey Bay Ranch PUD zoning agreement, including the master and final site plan. And that concludes the presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Brown, do you have any questions of the,
No, sir.
go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about the distinction between real estate density and rural land use category and what the height restrictions on those two categories are? I mean, you said that in rural land use, we have a 40-foot maximum amount or vertical elevation.
Rural
In rural estate, what is the maximum allowable height?
Well, rural density allows 40 feet. That was essentially straight from the code, and 50% open space. Those are the requirements for rural density. Is that your question?
No.
Or you're talking about
My question
rural-
is about the zoning category rural.
Oh,
Rural
RE2A?
estate, which is what it's zoned at currently.
That's correct, yes. It only allows 30 feet.
30, not 35.
Right, so this table shows, this is the development criteria and structure setbacks for the only straight Category A zoning district that's available for rural density is RE2A. And you can see it's the top row here in black. This is the development criteria for it. So it only allows 30 feet in the straight zoning. So the PUD is the only option available in terms of a zoning district to allow what's allowed in the comp plan, which is 40 feet.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the setback requirements from a canal side development would be in rural estate density?
30 feet?
30 feet. And this proposed development, if it was on an active shoreline, what would be the setback requirements for that?
Well, that would depend.
Pete Walden, Deputy Growth Management Director, that would depend on the shoreline protection zone at that thing, but this is west of the spillways and the locks, so there is no shoreline protection zone on these canals.
I've never
Honest
heard
and
that
water.
there was a distinction between the locks.
Yes, that's
So-
where the shoreline protection zone ends.
Okay.
The locks at Phipps Park is where it's no longer estuarine waters, it's freshwater canals from that point west, and there's no shoreline protection zone out there.
Lake Okeechobee is an inland, huge body of water that, thousands of people have been killed because of seiche in that water body.
This is not on Lake Okeechobee.
This is on the Ring
Let
Canal.
him ask his questions.
This is on the Ring Canal, which is, and there is a massive dike, which is why we're going up in vertical elevation. But the Ring Canal, and this is also on sewer and well water, correct?
That's correct.
It's on
And-
sewer and well water?
No, well, it's septic tank
Okay.
on a canal that is connected to Lake Okeechobee.
Anything else, Jim?
No, I just wanted to get that clarity, and
that's
the information on the Estuarine Shoreline Protection Zone is surprising to me, but, I mean, Lake Okeechobee, I think, poses a huge risk.
Understood, I'm just stating the current code.
Rick, do you have any questions?
I got some points to make that,
Well, why don't you save the points till we have all the
okay,
information?
okay.
You have anything?
No.
And I don't either. Who's up for the applicant?
Hi, good evening. Matthew Barnes, Senior Project Manager with WGI, here on behalf of the applicant. I believe, do I need to give out the affidavits of notification? Yeah.
Yes.
Do I give that?
Thank you.
Then do I advance the slides, or?
Unless you want to come up with like a, I can do it for you.
Okay, sure. I can do it if you,
Go ahead.
all right, of course, staff did a great job with explaining, what the application is, so I'll be fairly brief in my remarks, but I just wanted to go over a few things. This is an aerial that actually will maybe better illustrate how far west it is, so as Brian pointed out, it is on the far western end of the property, of the county. Indian Town is in the lower right-hand corner of this image, and it is on the rim canal of Lake Okeechobee. It's a very long and skinny property, of course, as you can see. It's about a mile long, a little more than a mile long, and it varies in width from 75 feet at its narrowest to 224 feet at the widest parts. It is 18.2 acres, and you can see, actually, to your point, Jim, that there is actually dry land property between our property line and then actually the edge of the rim canal. There's, in some places, it's over 100 feet between our property and where the rim canal is, in addition to the setbacks that we have on our property from the rear property line. The surrounding uses, as Brian said, are agriculture on the west, on the east, and then to the north, there is some single-family residential that's already developed there. This is what you see when you drive along Connors Highway, and you look off to the west, which is basically, the dike of the lake in the background, which is the whole reason that we're doing the PUD, is to get the 10 feet of height that is not permitted in the RE2A district, but is allowed by the current future land use category for the property. So we have a request for a master and final site plan, which is, it is a by right density. We're not seeking to increase density. It's RE2A and rural density is, 1 unit per 2 acres, and that's what we're building. So there's 9 2-acre lots on the 18 acres. We also have a PUD agreement, which is what rezones the property to PUD, and it formalizes the development agreement and the required public benefits for the project, which I'll get into in a minute. Importantly, that it does not, as I mentioned, we're not requesting a land use change. We're not increasing the density, we're not changing the land use, and we're not decreasing the minimum lot size. We're not taking 9 lots and smushing them to one side of the property and on half-acre lots and leaving other parts differently. So the only reason the PUD is allowed, or is required, is to achieve views of Lake Okeechobee. As you saw on the slide, at the 30-foot maximum height, all you would see is the side of the dike. But if we can get up to 40 feet, which again is allowed by the future land use category, that would allow us to be able to see over the top of the dike and down into the surface of the lake. But as I mentioned before, we're not requesting a land use change, and then we're not increasing density, and we're not asking to decrease the minimum lot size. In fact, we're exceeding some of the minimum zoning requirements, such as open space, side setbacks, and the minimum frontage for each lot. So public benefit number 1 that we're proffering, and it's the only public benefit, I'll say, that's in the PUD agreement. The second one you'll see in a moment. But we are proffering, as part of the project, to buy one fire signal preemption device for the fire department at a cost of $6,000, as it was said in the staff report, which controls traffic signals for first responders. This is a quote from a recent article from the Division Chief of Operations in the county that, gaining 10 to 12 seconds on average per light is tremendous when responding to an incident. As you know, seconds saves lives. So whether it be a cardiac arrest, stroke, or structure fire, this is essential for us to save that time. It can shave minutes while we're responding to that. It is, far away from, the nearest fire station is Indiantown. There are only 3 signals between Indiantown and this property, so we believe the one fire preemption device is proportional to the request. The second public benefit, which isn't a stated public benefit, I'll say, in the PUD agreement, but I think it's a design element of the project that goes above and beyond the code minimum. So there is a benefit to the public, which is the standard stormwater design is to hold back the 25-year 3-day storm event, and then you discharge into your legal positive outfall, which for this project is the Rim Canal. The project's been designed to retain the 100-year 3-day storm event, so the biggest storm event that you can model, and all of it will be retained on site with 0 discharge into the public water system. There's a lot of projects that have public benefits that treat stormwater before discharging it, and they filter it and all this. We're just absolutely not discharging into the Rim Canal, so that, I argue, is a benefit to the public. It does require larger dry retention areas than would otherwise be required, so approximately double the size. And that's the blue areas you see on the property is what would be the dry detention. So what is the site plan, right? I've kind of talked about it, and this is sort of a colored version of the site plan. Again, nine homes, each on 2-acre lots, minimum 75% open space, which is, again, consistent with the rural density future land use designation. No increase in density, no decrease in the minimum lot size. This is like a closer-up view, just to give you an idea. Again, we're not here this is site plan approval, but each house will come in for its own building permit. These houses won't necessarily be built exactly where I'm showing them on this diagram, but it's just to give you an idea of what it would look like. The houses you see are approximately 3,000 to 3,300 square foot footprint. That's just to give you an idea of the size of what you're looking at. So yeah, each lot would have its own driveway onto Connors Highway. There's landscaping in the side yards and the rear that are in the dry detention areas in a conservation buffer. And then each house would also plant, of course, because it's on the highway, it's up to each homeowner to plant whatever landscaping they want to between their house and the highway. So here's like the middle lots, and here's like the the southernmost lots as well. With regard to trees, there's currently 158 trees on the site. We are preserving 109 of them, which is about 70%, and we're proposing to remove 49. 29 of the 49 that we're proposing to remove are because they're in poor health, they have insect damage, or they were damaged by the recent hurricane in October of this past year. But having said that, we are actually proposing to add 466 new trees to the site, and that's just the trees that are in the sides and the rear yards. That doesn't include whatever trees the homeowner may plant in their own front yard. So the end number will be even more than that. So that's a net of over 400 trees to the site. So this is what we're really here for, right, is to seek the height, the additional height that is consistent with the land use, the rural density land use designation. That's on the policy right there, policy 4.13A.5, parentheses 1, all rural development shall have a maximum building height of 40 feet. We would propose, on that conceptual elevation that Brian showed, and this is the same one, just kind of zoomed into the larger view. If we had a mean roof height of 38 feet with our roof deck there, that's that blue line you see on the screen here, where you can see that the actual elevation of the water in Lake Okeechobee is like about 20 feet below the height of the dike, right? So if you were just to be able to just barely see right at the height of the dike, you're not going to be able to see down into where the level of the lake is. You need to be slightly higher than that to have an angle down into that, so you can actually see the water, which is what we're seeking with the 10 feet in height from 30 to 40. You just heard from staff, that they've reviewed it. They find it complies with the LDRs, and they're recommending approval of it because it is consistent with the guidelines and standards, both of the LDRs and the comprehensive plan. So having said that, I'm here to answer any questions. We have design professionals from the team here as well.
Rick, you have any questions? Jarrett?
Nope.
The easement is Army Corps of Engineers controlled? The easement around the Ring Canal?
Yeah, that's, the state of Florida owns that land. And, yeah, I think the Army Corps of Engineers is who maintains.
They manage the Ring Canal?
Yeah.
And so you are using that as your drainage buffer as well, or are you not? Is all of your dry detention going to be on site, or are you including some of that easement?
No, we've designed it. By law, we could discharge into the Rim Canal. That's our legal positive outfall, but we've over-designed it to hold back water from the 100-year 3-day storm event. So there will never be an instance, unless there's a storm that's the 500-year storm, where there is an emergency outflow into the Rim Canal, but that's only if the system reaches above that flood stage.
And are all of your first floors blowout walls, or is there going to be living space on the first floor?
Well, the conceptual elevation you saw showed that it's anticipated that the first level, with the extra height, would be uninhabitable. It would be the garages, so that you would have 2 floors above that of habitable with the roof on top of that.
But is that part of the PUD plan to have those non-habitable first floors?
So again, we're not approving what I'll call like site plans for each home, right? We're not designing each home. So that level of specificity is not, in the PUD agreement nor the construction plans.
And all of your septic drainage fields are on the east side of these structures, right?
Yeah, they'll be, I'll say, east of the dry detention, right? They'll have to be, there's a certain spacing you have to meet from your well water and your septic system. So they'll be on probably opposite sides of the lot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Howard, any questions?
No, sir, I live on the canal, and we have a well and septic and everything you're talking about.
So that top, I'm not going to call it a floor because it isn't, that roof is not going to be living space per se. It's going to be more or less like a porch so that you
Widow
could.
walk.
Well, I hope it's a little bigger than the widow's walk, but it's got nothing to do, like,
Pete's going to talk
Well, again, we're not designing, there's no design criteria in the PUD.
for the
So
houses.
Discussing that typical, like Brian said, that was just a typical layout to show what it could be. So we're allowing, the PUD is requesting a height, a roof height of 40 feet, and that's,
But that's peak of roof, correct?
that is part of the ask of the PUD, correct?
Just the height would be a maximum of 40 feet, top of the roof.
Peak of roof.
Well, no, our height is defined in our LDRs. It depends on what kind of roof. So if it were the kind of roof shown there, then it would be the mean of the roof.
Okay, so from soffit to mean of roof with a pitch angle of whatever could be 50 feet tall.
It could be higher than 40, yes, but that's how we measure height. That's how it's defined in the code. So if you had a flat roof, then it would be measured something different. Yeah, depends how much you want to get into.
well, when I met with the applicant, I was told it was not going to be living space.
But-
If it's going to be living space, that's going to change my vote.
There's no restriction in the PUD that says you can't have living space, just on the record.
Okay, so
We don't know what,
excuse me, let the applicant speak, please.
I'll bring up, I think it's on the screen, right? You couldn't have living space up there by, it wouldn't meet the minimum. You couldn't have a third level up there if you have what you see on the screen here. That would have to be just a roof deck. So, I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than you could
Well,
have,
then why don't we put into the PUD language to that effect, or can we?
We can add conditions for the building, for the houses in the PUD language. Right now, the houses aren't contemplated in the PUD, so, but that can certainly be added as part of the negotiation if the parties would like, but it would,
Certainly recommend that.
yes.
Well, okay, so that would be one of my recommendation, that would be my recommendation for this. I'm not going to try to design the language, Ms. Elder, because I don't want to screw it up. I'm sure
fine.
you people will do just fine. But
What is your concern?
my concern is I do not want to have a third floor which will be living space.
Why?
Because it's supposed to be 30 feet, not 40, and we accommodate for 40 so that the people will have a view, they can have it outside, they can look at things, they can have a drink up there, whatever, but not have a bedroom up there. That's my concern. So that would be one of my that would be my condition for moving forward with this. Is there any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, back to the board. Any discussion on the board's part?
I think there's a lot of good reasons for having, maximum height in the rural estate density category, and that is so that the rest of the world doesn't have to see your house. I am uncomfortable with not making a restriction in a PUD agreement, which is exactly that. It's a negotiated agreement with the builder to have a maximum elevation, and we're hearing that 40 feet may not actually mean 40 feet, and I'm pretty uncomfortable with that. I'm also not happy about putting septic and wells even further away from the urban service boundary, but that is what it is.
Well, that is completely within our code, correct?
Yeah, and it's done all the time.
So, yes, I would agree. Wish it didn't happen, but it does. So, not our job to do something else. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Yeah, I got a comment that, there's the law here and the way it's written. There's also the spirit of the law. And if my memory serves me right, the reason that limit is in there is is to make sure that you're not obstructing your neighbor's view, you're not obstructing your either side neighbor's view. Well, if you pull up that aerial again, there are no neighbors. I mean, you're not going to bother, this going to 40 feet is not going to bother any neighbor, anybody else anyway. And as far as, seeing it from the road, if you've not driven down that road, you can start at the county line and go all the way south. You can see all those homes, they're there. So what's the difference? And if people are going to build out there, I don't think they're going to build a shack. I think they're going to build a nice home. And it's going to be high enough that they can see the lake. Between this development and Port Mayaca, I think there's about 22 or 3, something like that, vacant lots. So when you look at the potential of setting a precedent, there's not much left to do. And if if everybody went to 40 feet there and you could see over the lake, and you're going to add if it gets higher and you can see over the lake, that does make the houses worth more, which does increase our tax base. And as far as putting a bedroom up there, I don't understand it. You got your concerns, but I don't understand.
Well,
But-
I understand what you understand, and I understand your concerns.
But the thing is the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is, let's protect our neighbors, let's protect the people around it. But when you look where this is, you don't have to worry about any neighbors.
But the code says 30 feet, so we're raising it to 40 feet. And the reason I was given by the applicant, who's not here tonight, was they were going to want to put a terrace of some sort up there. And that was fine with me. And I specifically asked at that meeting, are you doing anything else? Are you putting a bedroom? Are you putting any other living space? The answer was no. So this condition should not bother anything they wanted to do. So that's why I'm putting it in, and because it's a PUD agreement, it's supposed to be 30 feet, let's make it 40 feet, but let's not make another floor out of it, because we could have made it 60 feet, and nobody would have there's no neighbors to really care what's there. So,
I could speak
Why
on
should
that.
we?
Yeah, obviously, the maximum height in the county is 40, so you can't do 60, but 40 feet, by definition of the code, it depends on the roof you have. Like, we're not asking for anything special with regards to the height, other than being able to go from 30 to 40. We're not asking for a different definition of height, so we would just ask that we be allowed to build to the 40 feet per the definition of height that's in the code, right? That's our.
well, I will support this motion with my condition.
Are you passing the gavel to make the motion?
No, I'm not making a motion.
Okay.
I will support this motion with that condition. Otherwise, I
condition
would
back.
not support the motion.
The condition was to add language to the PUD agreement that limits anything on the third floor to non-living space. So it would be like it would be more eloquent than what I just said, but like a porch or a lookout or something like that, not a bedroom.
Well, we can't really, yeah, it'd be the fourth floor, because if you look
It
at
would be
the,
the fourth floor, there's 2 living floors.
Four, okay, sorry.
yeah. I mean,
Top floor.
Is there prohibition in the PUD agreement about the bottom floor not being habitable?
There is no condition in the PUD agreement for any of the
Talking about-
houses.
3 or 4?
It depends how, yeah.
Exactly, and I'm not
And
saying we
that's-
should
I
do
mean, it's
anything on the
just
ground
Really
floor.
squishy.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should do anything on the ground floor. But that's, if anybody else has another suggestion, or I'll take a motion.
No, I'd move to deny the applicant's request.
Okay, do I have a second? Seeing no second, it fails. Can I get a motion? Is there a motion for approval with my condition? Even if you want to vote against a motion, let's get a motion so it goes to the commission. Otherwise, it goes to the commission with no
Well,
recommendation.
I make a motion, we approve it as it is.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll
I-
second.
Go ahead.
Okay, there is a second. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed.
I'm opposed. 3-2 passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next up. Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2303, Sunrise Grove, FLUM. Ms. Lovelace, you ready? Or are you going to do it, Clyde?
Good evening. I'm Samantha Lovelady with the Growth Management Department. Nice to meet you, Mr. Brown and Mr. Engsko.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, this is CPA 23-03, Sunrise Grove. It's a future land use map amendment application. And it's a request by Martin Triangle Property LLC. It's a proposed future land use map to change 205 acres of agricultural ranchette to the AgTech future land use designation. A little bit of background. This amendment is related to the AgTech future land use designation that was created in 2010 on 1,717 acres. It has no developed acreage at this time, but it does have one approved PUD within 7.66 acre area. A little bit more background. Application materials submitted included a survey showing the existing acreage as 1,734 acres instead of 1,717. The applicant has indicated that this may be an oversight. Adding 205 acres with this future land use map amendment will result in a total of 1,939 acres. This is the existing future land use.
Yes, it is, sorry.
And you can see it's outlined in red here. And this is the proposed future land use. The compatibility within the AgTech, it is compatible with AgTech to the west of the property. It's compatible with the I-95 intersection to the east. And the proposed flume is less compatible with 31 acres on the southeast side of the property. And it's that right there, which is Ag Ranchette. There's a separate text amendment, CPA 2304, to add 205 acres to the freestanding urban service district. AgTech is a freestanding urban service district, so that would be added into that.
Are we doing both these together or separately?
No, they're going to be separate.
And section 2.1 of the staff report shows that 1 out of 4 criteria that staff must consider to recommend approval for the future land use map amendment have been met. In section 2.2, urban sprawl, 10 out of the 13 criteria indicate this amendment discourages the proliferation of sprawl. Section 2.2.1, proliferation of sprawl, 7 out of 8 criteria indicate this amendment discourages the proliferation of sprawl. And I wanted to show you this graphic here. This is the AgTech freestanding urban service district. This is the subject property. This is a recently added freestanding urban service district that's within proximity. You have your 7J's freestanding urban service district. And of course, you have your secondary urban service district here. And you have your Newfield addition to the primary urban service district that allows for 1 million square feet of industrial. 2 million? 2 million, I'm sorry. The companion text amendment is requesting to change the name of the future land use designation as AgTech to Sunrise Grove. And staff recommendation for CPA 2303 is for a motion to recommend approval of CPA 2303 Sunrise Grove. And that concludes my presentation. I will take any questions you may
Any
have.
questions for staff? Mr. Brown, any question?
Yes, I'm just, maybe it's probably simple, but ag tech, what is, I mean, what does that stand for? Is it just a name of?
It is a name, and it's a cross between agricultural and technical.
Technical.
It sounded really cool.
Okay.
Sort of.
If I can add a little bit more to answer your question, Mr. Brown. We're going to get into it in the next presentation, but the existing future land use designation, which is being sought for this property, requires a split between non-residential or industrial type of development, and some portion of it must be agriculture and open space. So it was intended to provide for high-tech and that worked with agricultural activity.
Okay.
That was the original intent back in 2010, and it was designed and does in fact have a requirement of both being on the property.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Jim, any question?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. In the staff report, it was said that you met, or at least one of the 4 anti-sprawl measures were met. When I counted it, was all 4 didn't meet the standard.
Talking about the criteria for land use change.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Moyer, you're referring to the 4 criteria
Yeah.
that staff must consider for a future land use map amendment. The one that I believe that was met is that there have been future land use map amendments in the surrounding area.
Yeah, I think that was said, but I think that actually this criteria has not been met. I counted 4. And I mean, because it is clear that there have been future land use amendments in this area, I can't quibble with that, but I am very concerned that this increasing number of freestanding urban service districts is by definition sprawl.
Anything else, Jim?
No.
If I'm not mistaken, this will be, the commission is in the process of changing to not have these freestanding urban service districts. They've asked you staff to come back with something. This was in the hopper since 2023. And so while I agree with you, Jim, we have a lot of that, this was in the hopper under current regulations since 2023. And it does, from what they say, meet the definitions. So I have a little bit different output. I just wanted to say that this is not something new. This is not something that came up after the commission decided that they want to have new language. This is something that's been hanging around for quite a while. And I just want to make sure we all understand that this is not anything new.
This is nothing new, and we're just adding 2.
Well, but
This is property that's adjacent, immediately adjacent to it, owned by the same people.
in and of itself, that wouldn't mean much if it had come in after the commission votes something else. But I just want to make it quite clear, this is This is not trying to sneak in under the wire.
Oh, no, I've been opposed to freestanding urban service
Since
districts
2010.
for a long time.
at least
And
2010.
I was
So that
not,
hasn't
I was
changed.
not in favor of ag tech when it started.
Well,
So-
I was just a
yeah.
child at the time. All right, Mr. Cree.
Okay. I do have the notice of, to surrounding property owners within 2,500 feet of the property, and also for the March 11th county commission date. And for the benefit of the new board members, I'm going to go in a little more detail about this land use category, but for the record, my name is Morris Crady. I'm senior partner with Lucido and Associates. I was a county staff member from 1982 to 1990, and I've been working with Lucido and Associates in land planning since that time. So for the past 43 years, working in Martin County almost exclusively as a land planner. And I'm here on behalf of Sunrise Grove LLC and Martin Triangle Property LLC. The Triangle property is the property that we're adding, and Sunrise Grove is the owner of the ag tech land use category, and these are LLCs created by Ashley Capital, which is an industrial investment firm, and I do have representatives from Ashley Capital here tonight. But I want to give you some background on, first of all, just the surrounding land uses, a little more detail. This is the ag tech land use category. It was a citrus farm for years, for decades, and fell to the greening and canker and other things. But you can see the entire site is impacted. There is no wetland or any type of environmental restriction. It goes all the way up to the county line. And this is Cobblestone PUD. It's been called Fox Club. I think there's another name for it now, but that's the golf course. And this is Stewart West. It's also, I don't think it's a PUD though. Those are 2-acre lots. This is Citrus Boulevard that starts from Martin Highway and connects to Becker Road in St. Lucie County. This is Newfield, and if you go out there today, you'll see some development here that is the first phase of Newfield, and they've started construction of their residential component and their Main Street component, their mixed-use area. This is the Poma Industrial that we talked about, but I want to, the whole thing about ag tech started in 2010 when we were into a recession, and everything's about location, and there's not many areas in Martin County along the I-95 corridor where you can put employment centers or create economic opportunities. And this is adjacent to a vast area to the north called City of Port St. Lucie, and it's directly adjacent to their jobs corridor. This was an employment jobs corridor that St. Lucie County undertook during the recession, and it's a lot more developed than even what this aerial shows. And they have been successful, and so AgTech kind of plays into that. We understand that there's, when there's one group of industrial developers, there's going to be more, and this whole design was contingent on obtaining water and sewer from the City of Port St. Lucie, and that's a requirement that the AgTech land use, and the previous property owner paid $2 million to reserve capacity to obtain that water and sewer from the City of Port St. Lucie. And Ashley Capital has been working with the City of Port St. Lucie to actually construct those utility lines and bring them into AgTech as part of their service agreement. In addition, there's also a requirement to construct a road, a road connection that will service these two industrial parks. So you have to recognize that this is not standing out west. It is adjacent to a developing area to the north, and it's an opportunity for Martin County to get some of that tax revenue and generate some economic opportunities within their property. We are not changing the intent of the ag land use category. Everything that you see in italics here, except for the crossed out and underlined stuff, is what we're changing. But the italics represents the current language in the county's comprehensive plan. And the intent of the AgTech land use was to allow the continuation of permitted economically viable agriculture, support the development of targeted businesses, tax base, and employment opportunities, and facilitate environmental enhancement through the protection of common open space or the restoration of natural systems while protecting and enhancing the Martin Grade Scenic Corridor. Now, those are built into the existing comprehensive plan language. We're not changing any of that. The Sunrise, all we're changing is the name from AgTech to Sunrise, shall apply solely to this parcel, which we're increasing it to 1,939 acres by correcting a survey error and also by adding the 205 acres. And so that doesn't change. The intent of the original land use doesn't change. Essentially, this is the land use category, and this is the property that we're adding. And I think this is Samantha went over this pretty well, but this is the residential development, Stewart West and Cobblestone. And this property is in two pieces. There's a parcel here that's very thin, that's more or less not usable. It will probably be, added to the adjacent property to make it usable. But there is some frontage here along, you can see it better here, along the I-95 that we would like to absorb and make part of the AgTech land use category. So this property was purchased with that intent, but you can see 50 acres or more consist of an existing lake that was constructed during the construction of I-95 to provide fill for the interchange. And so most of this property at the lake and south of the lake is not usable. So what we're really trying to capture is enclosing the AgTech so that we can obtain some frontage along I-95 and more or less create the economic opportunities that has been started in the city of Port St. Lucie. But there is no residential development allowed on this property. The only thing we're changing is the name from AgTech to Sunrise Grove. We're adding the 205 acres, the triangle parcel, which is along the frontage of I-95. By doing that, we're able to increase the minimum open space or the common open space agricultural area within the AgTech land use by 122 acres. So currently, we're required to have 817 acres of the total property in common open space and agricultural areas. And that doesn't include areas that are in an industrial park. It doesn't include the landscape areas. Those are common open space. And we'll get into more of that in a moment. And we're also adding 100 acres to the development parcel. And we're adding vehicle manufacturing, sales, and service. And the one thing we're not doing is we're not increasing the maximum allowable non-agricultural urban development. So even though we're adding 205 acres, we're not increasing what we're currently entitled to build, and that's represented in the policy subsection 1C. So it allows us to build up to 5 million square feet of targeted employment uses. You can read it there yourself. And now with the addition of the 205 acres, we can spread that same entitlement over a greater area. We're not increasing that amount of urban development, let's call it. And the reason we're adding vehicle manufacturing, sales, and service, this again, subsection 9.1. These are the uses permitted within AgTech. And you can see they're all targeted employment uses, and vehicle manufacturing, sales, and services too. And it's becoming even more important as a potential use given the advancement in electric vehicle technology. So we're trying to capture that as a target industry, and adding vehicle manufacturing, sales, and service will allow us to entertain some of those types of industries. So what we are doing is increasing that maximum development area, 100 acres, so we can spread that 5 million square feet over 900 or over 1,000 acres instead of 900 acres, which reduces the intensity of the development area, and it increases the open space within the development area. And usually that's the landscape areas around the buildings and parking lots. So we're also increasing the common open space agricultural area by 122 acres. And again, we're required to have 817 acres in the existing 1,717 acres of common open space agricultural areas. That's areas that could be lakes, retention areas, stormwater treatment areas, and agricultural areas. But it's all open space. And then we're increasing that to 939 acres of the total 1,939 acres that will be now composed of ag tech if this is approved. So we're bumping that up to 48.4% of the total site, and that will enable us to ensure that we meet 50% open space overall, which is the requirement for agricultural land use. So we'll be exceeding the 50% open space overall by adding that 205 acres and allocating an additional 122 acres of that as open space. So the proposed text amendment does not decrease the strict performance standards within the comprehensive plan. When AgTech was developed, the county wanted to make sure that they just weren't approving another industrial park. We created 3 pages of performance standards. That doesn't apply to any other industrial project in Martin County. And some of these examples, the only thing that we're changing in these performance policies is the name. But they're key elements of the land use and of any future development on the property. So it's required, we're only providing land for targeted employment uses. We have to provide stormwater quality in excess of Martin County and South Florida Water Management District standards. We have to use native vegetation and xeriscape techniques, including limiting the amount of turf within the development area. We're required to incorporate design and development standards from Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design and the Florida Green Building Council. We're required to help facilitate the county to enhance and protect the Martin Grade Scenic Corridor. And if you've been out there, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, along 714 all the way out to Lake Okeechobee. And of course, we're still maintaining the strict requirement of the 40 feet of height. And there's no change. There's other performance standards in there, but we're not changing any of the performance standard. We're only changing the name within those categories. The proposed text amendment and the land use amendment for that fact does not create additional traffic impacts. It does not create additional impacts on public facilities and services. It does not create additional environmental impacts. In fact, it's going to enhance the environment. And we did not remove or reduce any adopted performance standard. The only purpose of this is to add the 205 acres. And I can read page after page of policies within the comprehensive plan in the Chapter 4 future land use element that supports industrial development and economic opportunity in Martin County. And I won't read them verbatim.
Please don't read them.
Again, these are all policies within the comprehensive plan that encourage industries. And we're meeting and checking every one of these boxes with this application. And even there's, again, that's the future land use element. And the economic element, it goes even further. It actually, and let me go back one, let's see. It actually says that the county will consider this priority during the review of plan amendments. And that's talking about shall prioritize the land planning of sites with high visibility and close access to major transportation corridors for development as employment uses. And this is one of the few interchanges and one of the few areas along I-95 in Martin County that can support industrial development. The Bridge Road will probably never have any industrial development at that intersection, and the intersection at Canner Highway is built out. The intersection at High Meadows is not available for any type of development. So we're trying to encourage economic development and opportunity on a parcel of land that's been impacted for decades by agriculture and that cannot be restored to agricultural purposes, that's adjacent to economic activity in Port St. Lucie that we're hoping to bleed into economic opportunity in Martin County. And I think for that reason, back in June of 2022, the County Commission, after a presentation by the Business Development Board, identified this parcel, including 7J's, Martin Commerce Park, and Sunrise Grove Commerce Park, which is the property we're talking about, as the most viable areas in Martin County to support economic development opportunities. So we're trying to fulfill that goal, and Ashley Capital has the track record to do that. They've shown it in other areas throughout the nation. Committed to quality. They have a long-standing reputation as the nation's top privately held investment company, a proven track record, and they're embrace the opportunity to provide highways, jobs, and to create capital investment in Martin County and enhance and maintain Martin County's green infrastructure, which is part of the ag tech land use requirements. Again, that's the property. Real briefly on the land use, we believe it meets two. I know staff just believes it meets the one, but we believe growth in the area in terms of development of vacant land, redevelopment, also support the request, and that's evident by the development in Port St. Lucie. It may not be in Martin County, but certainly we're looking to get to absorb some of that economic activity in Martin County, and that does affect the area. That wasn't there when this was adopted in 2010. It's taken 15 years for that to become ripe, and now with Ashley Capital behind it, we have an opportunity to fulfill the goal of AgTech. And according to and I agree with staff's analysis of the urban sprawl indicators, the proposed amendments meets 10 of the 13 applicable indicators that discourage the proliferation of urban sprawl, and the proposed amendment meets 7 of the 8 indicators that are determined to discourage the proliferation of urban sprawl. So regarding the last thing I had was the survey error. And I wasn't involved in the original 2010 survey, but we had GCY update the survey, and what they discovered was there was 17 acres that were part of the actual land use designation that was not counted because it was a perpetual drainage easement. And so we added that back, and that's how we got to 1734. And when you add the 205 acres, you get to 1939. So that's an accurate representation of the AgTech land use. And the error that I'm talking about was this drainage easement that occurs along this boundary, which is the rest area. It's a perpetual drainage easement. It's part of the AgTech land use. It's part of the ownership of this property. So it should be included in the AgTech land use. We can't ever use it because it's a perpetual drainage easement, but it is part, and that's how we got to the 1,734 acres under the existing, and then we want to add 205 acres to that. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any
This
questions.
is the most I've ever heard you speak at one time.
I'm trying to get it all out. I'm trying to talk slow, but I'm not too good at that, and you probably don't want me to talk too slow.
Rick, anything?
Morris, when this property does not include the expressway-oriented piece of property on the
Does not,
node
no,
of 95 and 714.
That's this piece here, and,
Correct.
actually, it's pretty wet, and I don't know what they're going to do with that in the future, but Ashley doesn't own it, and we're not involved with that property owner.
Howard?
No questions.
I have no questions. Do you have anything you want to add, Mr. Raines? Okay, any public comment? Seeing none, back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
Elise,
Yes.
do I have to excuse myself? I lease that property,
You lease the property, which one?
all of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Even I knew it.
So you can declare your conflict, and then we'll get the Form 8B filed with the clerk. Yeah.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion?
I can't make a motion.
No, you can't.
No?
Well, I don't know if I wrote it right, but I make a motion that we approve the name change for,
Well,
No.
you're making a motion that
that we,
So the name change is going to come next. This is a motion to change the future land use on this sliver of property to AgTech, because the name hasn't changed yet. So that's the motion right now.
okay? Can I
okay.
get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? See none? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 3-1 with Mr. Moore opposed and Mr. Hartman recusing himself. Okay, next. Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2404 Sunrise Grove Martin Triangle Properties LLC text amendment. Miss Lovelace.
Love lady.
Oh, I'll get that. It's only been, what, 15 years?
Yeah. I thought at some point I needed
I
to
can't even
correct
remember
you.
my kid's name.
I can't remember my own name most of the time. Okay, this is CPA 2304 Sunrise Grove. And this is the text amendment that's companion to the CPA that you just voted on. And this is a request by Martin Triangle Property LLC and Sunrise Grove Commerce Center LLC. It's a site-specific text amendment to the AgTech policies in 1413A9 and policy 1413A10. It's a request to change the name from AgTech to Sunrise Grove for the freestanding urban service district and the future land use, and add 205 acres to the urban service district in Figure 4-2, and add the permitted use to the AgTech policies. Specifically, 1413A9, add vehicle manufacturing sales. I'm going to blow through this kind of quick because it's
Yes,
redundant.
please do.
Okay, so I can skip this page. We'll add 100 acres available for non-agricultural development, targeted employment uses, 105 acres to common open space, and no increase of intensity of allowable uses. And this is the existing Figure 4-2 Urban Service District. And you can see this AgTech property recently got added to Figure 4-2, even though it was a freestanding urban service district before. And this would be the 205 acres added to Figure 4-2. Again, you've seen this graphic a couple times. And this shows the policy changing the name and the vehicle manufacturing sales and services added. And this, in the policy 4.13A9, this is a table from one of the policy, 1413A9, and this table is included in the policy, and this shows you the non-agricultural development and targeted industry uses going from 900 to 1,000 and 817 to 939 for a total of 1939. And staff recommendation is for a motion to recommend approval of CPA 2304 Sunrise Groves text.
Any questions for Sam?
Sorry, I hope that wasn't too fast, but a lot was redundant.
Seeing none, does he need to recuse himself again?
Yes.
Before we go further? So does he need to say anything?
You can say that you're recusing yourself. You said it a minute ago, but you could say it again in this public hearing.
I really don't think I need to, but,
What?
Just so it's on the record for this public hearing, you can.
I mean, just because I've got a lease, I don't own it, I'm not gonna make any money off of
But
it.
we don't know that. Since you have like an interest in the property, it's better to recuse yourself from it. A lease is an interest, so you have an interest, and since I'm not able to evaluate, like, if there's any financial gain, in the abundance of caution, it's better for you to just recuse yourself.
That's what I've been told.
Okay, so,
But I can still talk, but I just can't vote.
Yes.
I'll point back.
anyways, okay, go.
No, well, my presentation obviously included the text amendment. I'll be glad to answer any questions. We're in agreement with staff recommendations.
Any questions for Mr. Crady? Well, he doesn't even want to answer them, he sits down. No. Okay, is there any public comment? Come on up, and you have to fill out a card afterwards. Oh, you did, all right.
I neglected to bring your pen. I didn't bring it. Oh. Can I do it after?
Yeah, you do it afterwards.
Thank you. My name is Mike Glenn. I'm a voter here in Martin County. I've been listening. I like to listen before I talk sometimes. Doesn't always happen. What would be the agricultural use on this property?
We don't answer questions, sir, so you got 3 minutes to talk.
Can I answer questions?
Not right now.
Okay. So I'm speculating to myself what the agricultural use would be on the property of a former agricultural property. And as a guy that takes 3 lights to get onto Canner Highway on Salerno Road at 5 o'clock coming home from work, I kind of dispute the economic benefit of approving everything that comes before the county commission. You guys are the precursor to that. So anytime you guys can help stave off unbridled and what is unneeded, in my opinion, as a citizen here. Doesn't benefit me, changes my quality of life. I appreciate it. And I also appreciate recusing yourself from voting on something that you're involved in the process of. It is good transparency, so thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay,
Thank you. One other comment. Anytime you encourage native trees is great, because all the bulldozing has been removing our native habitat, and when we go in with the fancy, shiny Boca Raton look of non-native plants, we provide no habitat for our native
That's right.
critters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Crady? Do you want to, for my benefit also, speak about what agricultural benefit there will be on that property?
Well, I think, one of the things they were considering early on was some type of fuel, some type of I think eucalyptus or some type of plant that would create the potential for fuel production.
That was the plan when King Ranch owned it.
Right, right. So I'm not marketing it, but that's an example of some type of ag tech use, because it would include some type of processing facility.
Okay. By the way, I toured the one out in Indiantown that they're using now for charcoal. It is an amazing site.
Something like that, yeah.
It's an amazing site. Okay, back to the board.
It's not, and it's just not that. On 900 acres with ag today, with what you can do with ag, hydroponics, a shrimp farm, fish farm, high-intensity grazing,
There's all kinds
all
of things.
kinds of stuff.
I just wanted to know if they had a plan, and apparently they do not have that plan yet.
But I do have a question that brings up, that if you are doing agriculture in an enclosed process, is that any longer considered open space?
No, I wouldn't call it open.
I wouldn't. But it's agriculture.
No.
This is where we are.
It is what it is. Is there any other questions for anyone, or do we have any discussion between us? If not, can I get a motion?
I'm not in favor, so.
Well,
I
you
won't
don't
be
have to
making a
make a motion. Mr. Brown, will you make a motion, one way or the other?
Okay, well, I hope I got this right. I keep, that we approve for the Sunrise Tech name change?
And,
Yeah, so the text amendment to approve,
Text
the,
amendment.
recommend approval of the text amendment.
Recommend approval of the text amendment for the
Okay.
name change.
can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
I am opposed.
3-1, with Mr. Moore opposing and Mr. Hartman recusing himself.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I? Paul
Yes, you
Schilling.
may, of course you may. We wouldn't have a meeting without you.
Thank you. Just while I have you all here this evening, I'd like to just inform you that we do have scheduled agenda items for March 6th, March 20, and March 3rd.
You
And,
mean April 3rd?
I'm sorry, April 3rd, yes.
I will not be here for the March 20th, but I will be here for the 3rd.
Okay,
I think I'm here for all three.
okay, thank you.
I don't believe I'll be here for April 3rd.
You getting this, Rebecca? Okay.
I get such a poor life, I'll probably be here for all of them.
Is there anything else? See,
I plan on being on here for all three.
Thank you, sir.
Can I make a motion to adjourn now?
well, technically, we don't really need a motion to adjourn.
Good, okay.
So we're just going to be adjourned.